Hello and welcome to the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Coolbaugh. Today we have me a very special guest, Jeffrey A. Smith. Jeffrey, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm excellent. Like I said before we got recording, I've been writing up a storm. Almost forgot my own intro, but I got it. Luckily, my brain froze, but my mouth knew what to do because I've done it so many times. But yeah. I really appreciate you coming on today, though, with us, Jeff. Cthoma Faded. Thank you so much for sending that to me. This has been on my list for a while. Well, for 2026 specifically, I kept trying. My friends are like, who I told what my list was last year, they're like, dude, just read the list first and then try to do bonus. And then I ran out of time. I was like maybe 8 books short. So I was so close to getting it in. And then I love this one too. The story just sounds amazing. So, and I actually do really like this cover. So it was really hard for me to pick, but I decided to go with Cathoma's Faded. And they then saved Shroud of Whispers for kind of like one of my bonus books for 2026. But it was a very difficult decision, especially after I had reread the blurb for the other one. So yeah, it was difficult. But I love that. I love it being difficult for me to pick my reading list. And unfortunately, you're not the only person that I had trouble. I'm like, do I read this series for them? Do I read this one? Like that kind of thing. But I can assure everyone I'm about to have the best reading year of my life in 2026, and I have already have started off with a bang. So I really appreciate you sending those to me. I'll make sure I put the book and social links for you in the description. Everybody knows where they can go. But Jeff, do you mind telling us today what has your writing journey been like up until this point?
Well, it started interesting because in second grade, I actually failed second grade because I couldn't read. And over that summer, I had a tutor who she said at the beginning of the summer, Jeff couldn't read, and at the end, he could. And after that, I've been a voracious reader and writer ever since. The real like big thing that happened was when my parents got me The Hobbit for Christmas.
Oh,
And before went back to school, and that was like in sixth grade, I read the whole book. And then I obviously went on to Lord of the Rings and then the Silmarillion, which the Silmarillion was probably one of the most important books I ever read as far as learning how to do world building and thinking in those terms. And then after that, I started playing Dungeons and Dragons, which got me into, thinking about character, and then eventually into story when I started DMing. So, and then I just started putting all these things together to start creating the stories that I've written so far with Cthoma's Faded and now Shroud of Whispers. Second book, it will be out relatively soon, so I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah, I started writing the series that Shroud of Whispers comes out of in the early 2000s. Tried to get it, tried to get an agent, came close, didn't quite didn't quite make it, and then kind of got distracted away from writing for almost a decade, and then came back to it.
know that feeling.
Yeah, and then I had the idea for Cthoma's Faded, and that's the one that I eventually released first as a indie author.
Well, that's awesome. I totally feel you with like the grade school thing. Like I had trouble focusing. Like it turns out I have an overactive thyroid, but at the time they thought I had like ADHD or something like that. But yeah, it was like first grade and I was like having a blast, and then I was like looking around, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm in the low reading group. I'm like, oh, so then I was like, nah, I'm not doing this. And I like buckled down, and I love stories and stuff. So I was like, my mom helped me and had some amazing teachers. And then yeah, I went to the higher group and never looked back. So but talk
Yeah.
about motivation to read. Yeah, so I definitely understand that. We also didn't have cable, so my grandma did, but we didn't. And we lived about 30 minutes from town, so, from my school at least. So yeah, so it was at least 18 minutes to town. So yeah, I'm like I could knock out books like left and right. But yeah, I feel you there. Yeah, and The Hobbit too. Like I think I read The Hobbit in seventh grade, and that was really I read that, and then I'm so sorry everybody, but you can look up her name, and it's a shame. I think she only wrote that book and one other. I read Knight's Word, so like Knight's Fate, and just an amazing book, like sword and sorcery book, but it's set almost in like a medieval like Britain, but just like an amazing read. So I read like The Hobbit, read that, and then all of a sudden I was like, dang, like fantasy is really awesome because I was really big into sci-fi. But yeah, The
Yeah.
Hobbit for me it was just like, yeah, just like, and Brian Jock was like another one, right? Like Redwall and stuff. Yeah, just read like
Oh, and Frank
really.
Herbert from Dune
Yeah.
was huge too. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, yeah,
It's,
yeah,
it's,
yeah.
it's funny because I was like the reader for my group. I would like
Mm.
read the book first and then give the copy. I went back to a friend's house like in college and I went hanging out in his brother's room and I looked at his bookcase and went, mine, mine, mine. He had all my books.
So I remember my friends like I went to the library and I just like needed something because it was like a sleepover and I think I was like waiting at my grandma's house or something and to like get taken to my friend's sleepover birthday party and I remember opening up the courtship of Princess Leia and holy moly was that like they went to Dathomir and it was so good and it got to the point where I was like waiting my turn for like whatever like N64 or whatever we were playing and I was like reading and then they're like do you want your turn? I'm like, no, I'm good. I was just like kept reading. They're like, you're reading at a party. I was like, this book is so good. My best friend at the time, it was his party, he loved Star Wars. But then after that, he was like, maybe I should read it. He's like, that was a really good book. I'm like, yeah. So I totally understand that. Yeah. And I remember in college, one of my friends, she came to our apartment and then like we like threw a party and stuff. And she was like, I think you have too many books.
No such thing.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, okay, you can leave the party. But no, I'm just kidding. We didn't kick her out. But yeah, it was interesting after that to find out, who read and didn't read from my friend group. So my best friend actually now, like right around the same time, yeah, like he was like reading and stuff, but now we do book club, like he reads a lot more. So it's so much fun to be like, hey, remember that book I told you about 19 or 20 years ago? Now you should read it. And he's just like very, he just like picks everything up. So I think it's a lot more fun when your friends read that way. So that's
Yeah.
really cool. So I know you talked a little bit about genres you like to read. So what genres do you currently like to write in and why?
Currently I'm doing mostly epic fantasy with I don't want to say really a dark edge, but I feel like more of a realistic edge
Mm.
in the sense of um, like characters dealing with real world problems, like True in Shroud of Whispers is dealing with addiction and things like that. I don't want to, because it is for entertainment. You don't want to stare into the abyss,
Yep.
but you want to give people something like, okay, this could really happen, as opposed
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to like, oh, they always make the right decision and it's always perfect and all that kind of stuff. I kind of like a little bit of people making mistakes and doing the wrong thing every once in a while too. So
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I totally get that because I just got done reading Tim Akers, The Memory and the Maze and his character Lloyd like you start off book one. It's like they're novellas, but they're not too long, but they're really good. His world building's amazing, magic system's great. But like yeah, like he it's like so heavy at times, but like he does it in a way where like, you feel it and especially in novella I think it's hard to really write that emotion but yeah so I totally get what you're saying and I like he's like I've asked him before I was like how are you marketing this and it's kind of hard because it's like not really grim dark not really dark fantasy right so yeah I
yeah,
totally get that it gets difficult after a while like I have some stuff that I'm writing which I'm starting to label historical urban fantasy because it's happening in my urban fantasy world but it's like like they're like prequels and you want to be like oh what happened before this kind of thing because there's not much like that and I think it's interesting when people just kind of write what they want to write because it's interesting because I think that's where like we get cool things like the RPG, cozy fantasy, like
yeah,
romantasy. Yeah, so I think genre sometimes I ask genre, but I love when people answer that way because I totally understand that because that's what I like to read. I like to read a mixture, of different genres because I think you get a really cool new and unique product that way. So I think that makes
yeah.
total sense.
Because a project I'm working on this year that I've kind of started, it has more of a humorous tone, but then I started working on the world and I kind of came up with a dark idea for the background. So it's like you have this kind of silly, not dumb character, but kind of a silly character. And then it's like, wow, his world is terrible. I don't want to live there.
Yeah, yeah. I feel that you'll do well with that. That's just basically Dungeon Crawler Carl and Carl like in a nutshell. Like, yeah, I love people love the humor. I remember people specifically when that first came out, and I talked to people. They're like, "Oh, that's not going to do well," and I was like, "I don't know. I think that sounds really interesting." I said, "I think it's also about how you write something, and then how you market it." And I
Yeah.
think he did a good job.
You have to put some humor into it, especially if you deal with some real dark or real serious situations, because you got to break the tension, not in the middle of the scene, but at
Yeah.
some point you've got to ease that back. I was watching this guy who was a former tanker in the army, and they're in a firefight, and he looks at his gunner and goes, "Mondays, am I right?" It's like, yeah, that's gonna happen. You're gonna have to break the tension instead of just like just sitting in the dark all the time.
Yeah. Well, I think that's where personally, maybe other people personally, I did not like certain things about the DC movies and stuff, like Batman versus Superman. Like, they're just, yeah, it was just like so serious all the time. But I think that's where Marvel did a better job of, doing serious things, but also breaking the tension. Yeah, and giving you, yeah, some fun along the way, even with these, gods and goddesses and these monumental shifts in a galaxy and stuff. Yeah, and like I think they dealt with some interesting concepts, right? Is like imagine being here today and then all of a sudden tomorrow you realize like superheroes and the world's a lot bigger and the universe is a lot bigger and we're not top of the food chain, so to speak, right? But I think
Mhm.
that like what you said, I think they did a good job, kind of mixing it up a little and yeah, taking the stress off of a stressful
Yeah.
thing if you really think about it. So yeah, I think that makes total sense. Well, I'm really looking forward to your take on like a humorous like fantasy like that. That sounds awesome. I love humor myself, so as my students would say, I probably use humor too much at times, but there's so funny when my students he's like, "Do you like write a lot of humorous things in your books?" I said, "No," I said, "but I like to do the Marvel thing. We're like breaking it up." I said, "I think sometimes I write things I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm trying to break the tension." Like you said, and they end up being funny. So I think that's a good way to look at it. But that's super cool. Now, I've been trying to be patient there, Jeff, but I'm really looking forward to asking you. What is your book, Cathoma's Fated about, and how'd you come up with this idea?
Well, it's my elevator pitch is basically he's a chosen one and he failed, and this is his life 19 years later. And actually, I came up with it almost, it was like 11 years ago. It was around this time of year. I had just lost my job because the company I worked for closed their doors. So I was like, in the morning, I'd be trying to send out my resume and everything. And then once I'd done all that, I would write. And one of the things I would just came up with was that basic idea of what if a chosen one failed? What would it be like? And how would they deal with that going forward? And this is the way I write. I'll be in the middle of something and I'll be halfway through, and all of a sudden I've got this idea, and I have to set what I'm working on aside, take like
I
a
get that.
week, write like 3 or 4 chapters, write some notes down, then set it aside, then come back to it later. And that's exactly what
Yeah.
happened with Cthoma's Faded. Although
Oh,
back then it was called No One, but I like the new name better.
oh, yeah, yeah. That's a
Thank
cool
you,
name.
editor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Well, I think it's funny how names come to you. I had one for my short story. I was like, and I was like trying to put it in a box that didn't fit. So I just kept writing. All of a sudden, it just struck me. I was like, oh, that's a really good title. And then I was like, oh, that works in the story. Yeah. So sometimes I think it takes a little while. I usually just throw one on there, and I was like, I'll just change it later. I've been getting a little bit better, I think, lately. But yeah, I totally get that. Yeah. So that's really interesting. Now, I have to ask, okay, so when it comes to, like characters within the book, um, were there any like specific like characters maybe from media or, like maybe books you had read that maybe influenced you for some of the main characters or villains?
Can't really say, specifically like I went like, oh, I'm gonna grab this character, and because like you're always taken in media in some
Oh,
way,
yeah,
whether
yeah.
it's a movie or a book or anything like that. Um, Probably kind of leaning toward a little bit towards probably that Marvel thing because he is a bit sarcastic, the main character.
Oh, nice.
So he deals with the problem by, making jokes and trying to like push it aside and ignore it. But yeah, I don't really think, not at least not in that book where I was like, oh, this character is this guy and this character is that guy. Although there are 10 rings, so obviously I get people saying, oh, Lord of the Rings, and then there's an Empire, oh, Star Wars. there are things that just kind of transcend the different stories they come from. So
That's awesome. Well, I have to ask because I'm gonna nerd out on this back cover blurb a little bit. So when you had every 20 years, the red comet Cthoma lights up the night sky. Every 20 years, the Emperor, I should ask you how to say this ahead of time. Is that Shukram Blade must fear
yeah,
for his life?
yep.
Sweet. Now, I don't want to give anything away, obviously, because I've read the book yet. And I love doing the director's cut ahead of time though, particularly for like blurb, cover, and just like setup for story. So I'm curious that like where did that idea come from for this like red comet every 20 years? And the Emperor has to fear for his life. That really like struck me as soon as I read the blurb the first time.
Yeah, I wanted something that set the stage, that
Mm.
because it's somebody has to be born under the red comet to then under the red comet again take care of the problem. I probably didn't put it, I know I didn't do this as well in the book as I wanted to, but it's like the comet only shows up when there's a problem, and then
Oh, that's cool.
they find the people that like, oh, you're comet born, you're comet born. Okay, well, let's find out who is the one that's supposed to solve this problem, and that's where that kind of came from.
Oh, that's super cool. Well, that's awesome. That's a great way to I feel like that was a great way to get people like into the story as well. So that's super cool. And I think it fits so well with the amazing cover too. And I'm kind of curious, like when it comes to your chosen one, like you kind of mentioned, like did you kind of go with like, the did you take any of those like typical tropes or the processes of like the hero's journey into the chosen one myth, or did you kind of just start there and kind of build your own?
Yeah, I really did do the hero's journey, because you have the young boy taken away from his family and is outside of civilization and comes back into it at a, still at a young age. But then playing off that trope and uh having him fail, and now he's like middle aged and has to try to figure out what's going to, because the comet's coming back, and so Chakram's afraid of what's going to happen, but he does have the chosen one as a prisoner pretty much at that point.
Cool. I sent this to my friend because I was like, oh, like Jeff sent me both books, and he goes, oh, that looks cool. So he said he got as far as where he said it says he trained with an ancient order of monks, and he was like, sold. Uh because that's our thing. So I'm kind of curious, where did that idea for this ancient order of monks kind of come from?
Yeah, it goes with the hero's journey, basically, that the person that kind of helps the
Awesome.
hero learn their trade. um there's we don't spend a lot of time in that because we're more in what he's dealing with
Oh
now,
yeah.
but just kind of like lay the little groundwork, like the other people that were basically being trained with him that weren't the chosen one, and what happened to them, and things like that. And that's, I just like that idea, and then just throw out weird names, because I think one of them's named Long Rabbit, and I'm just like, it's kind of fun name.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. I'm a martial artist, so anytime someone says monks, or I loved like Dragon Age, like the original one where you were the Wardens, like the Forgotten Realms, the Harpers, like,
Oh yeah.
you name it, right? Like so to me that was like right up our alley. So yeah, I thought that that was really cool. And if it's not spoilerish, why did you go with 10 powerful rings?
Where did I go?
Well, I'm just curious at where that came from. Like, why did you do 10 instead of like six? Like, like, was there
There's
a
one
particular
for each
reason?
finger. So
Oh, I like that.
each ring has a power, and
Yeah,
each
yeah, yeah.
finger symbolizes something. And I did research on that to figure out, and then pair them up together. Don't have them all memorized off the top of my head, so I won't be able
Oh,
to.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's super cool.
But it is important, like which ring is missing and what they can do. If you put the ring on the wrong finger, because at one point he finds somebody with a ring who has really big fingers. It's supposed to go on their thumb, but it's too small, so they have it on their pinky, so they can't use the power of that ring. So that it all matters. It all builds off of each other.
That's really cool. That's awesome. Yeah, that's really neat.
And I want to.
I,
I was trying to figure. I didn't really want to do rings at first,
mm,
but it it made sense as far as like there's ten fingers. You can
yeah,
put
yeah.
10 magic items on there. And I was like, you could do armor, you could do something, but the rings are just, they're small. You can cover them up with gloves. It added
Yeah,
to the story in a sense.
that's cool. No, that's super cool. I think that's a great idea. Well, that's awesome. But I love where I just want to mention for the back blurb, like if people, take a look at it, either whether they go on Amazon or, look at the physical copy as well. Because I like to point these things out because I've been helping some friends with their book covers and things, particularly their back book covers to, really try and make sure. And I really try to make sure for mine. And I tested this with people like where I ended, ideas to be really on purpose and meaningful. So I just got to say, I'm going to try and get this where you have here in the middle by itself, you have that first part, and then he failed, and then put the rest. So I think that was really brilliantly done because I feel like once you get to that point, it's like, bam, it's kind of like a hammer blow and then kind of sets up the rest of the blurb. So I just want to point that out because I know we have a lot of people, like you and me that are watching or listening or sharing this podcast who, I always call us journeymen, got about to publish, one or two books or already have one or two books published, that kind of thing. So I just want to point out, I think that was really brilliantly done and really smart on your part because it really makes the blurb flow. I always have people ask me like what should I be looking at for blurbs? So I would say that this is a great cover to look at. This is a great blurb to look at. There you go, guys in the audience. Now you know. And you're red. I just want to let you know that you're red here, along with and I told my friend Jordan Loyal Short for his first book. Your two covers actually made me for my urban fantasy series. For the actual book cover one, made me go red for some of the things that are going on. I was like, these are just so cool, and black and red are like my favorite combo.
Oh
So
yeah,
that's
me
what I
too.
went with. So yeah, but I just wanted to, I already told Jordan, so I want to let you know, like your cover really, along with his, inspired me to do mine. So I can't wait once I'm done with that, that final draft and I do the cover reveal, I'll send it to you. So I'll send you guys a
Oh,
copy
awesome.
because yeah, that was why I had Tom Edwards, a Tom Edwards design do that. But your book cover was one of the two reasons that I kind of went with what we went with. So thank you so much for you and
That's
your
cool to
artists
hear.
and the
Yeah.
inspiration. Yeah, yeah, it was super cool. I can't wait for you guys to see it. I haven't shown Jordan yet either. I'm just gonna send you guys the book before we publish it. So I can't wait.
Awesome.
Pretty excited about that.
When do you plan on publishing?
I have a prequel novella. So let's see. If we're in May, my first prequel novella out of a trilogy are going to be How My Monster Hunter Became a Monster Hunter. He was a Marine, so prequel novella one, is going to be how he encounters the supernatural as a Marine. And then the second one, I'm pretty much like two-thirds the way through the rough draft, but I have a lot I'm going to like edit because I'm almost done with final edits for the first one. I'm hoping that as of right now, it looks like we're on schedule to pre-order like around like the first or second week of April. And then hopefully the book itself will come out first or second week of June. Our fallback date would be once I come back from vacation after 4th of July, so that first week in July. Yeah, and then it's kind of hard because I got some other stuff going. I have like a secret project that I talked about with you a little bit earlier, so I have that coming out in the fall. So I have to figure out like how to get in before maybe like Halloween with my second prequel novella, or I might just wait and then wrap a release 2 and 3, and then the actual book one in early 2027. Like I might just be on everybody's feed. But yeah, I have a dark fantasy novella that yeah, I'm like I have a friend. I'm gonna go through edits in the next couple of months, send that to him, and then I'll give it to some alpha readers, kind of go from there. It was my Kindle Vella series that I was gonna start posting Twin Flames, and Kindle Vella isn't a thing now, so I was like, I have all this material. I was like, what am I gonna do? I was like, I'll do a series of novellas. It's kind of like D&D, kind of inspired. Yeah, but mixed with Lethal Weapon and Mission Impossible in a Tokugawa fantasy setting.
Oh,
So I'm
cool.
pretty excited. Yeah, pretty excited to get on the scene. I told my friend, I was like, even if I just get the first prequel novella, The Hunted, out for my urban fantasy series, I just want to be published this year and get to join the club and have some fun with you guys. And I
Yeah,
had
that would
Mike
be
Mullen
great.
and I, yeah, Mike Mullen and I are trying to meet up near me in Central New York to do a con in November of this
Oh,
year. So yeah, I'm
okay.
hoping that that'll be like my last event to kind of like like cap off the year and stuff. So yeah, I just want to do all the author things like you guys. So but yeah, it should be really fun. So for number 5, So what do you focus on? Or sorry, number 4. So now we're going to talk about your other book that you sent me, which I was so happy about because I thought you were just sending this one. So when I thought bold, I was like, this is thick. I was like, oh, the book's longer than I thought, or Amazon said. So I opened this one. I was like, holy moly. Because this one sounds right up my alley. And I had it saved and I totally didn't think about it. So I'm going to try and show that just a little bit better. There we go. Because this is such a cool cover as well. And I love the blurb, so I think definitely people should check this book out as well. But what is your book, Shroud of Whispers, about, and what can readers expect from the first book in this series?
Shroud of Whispers is basically a murder mystery. There's 2 murders in the first 2 chapters. One, you don't know who the killer is. And the second one, you know who the killer is, but she shouldn't be able to do what she did. So it's told from Zamiel Amulin's point of view. He's an inquisitor for the temple. He's invisible to the undead. So anytime there's any undead things happening, they call him out to take a look at it. He doesn't really like his job. He doesn't really want to do it. He's constantly being under pressure from the temple, from the leader of the town, and all this kind of stuff. So there's that aspect, and then there's True. She's disgraced clockmaker's apprentice. She had runes tattooed on her back, and ever since that happened, she's heard whispers in her head, and the only thing that stopped it was opium. So she became addicted to opium, trying to stop this whispering, which then cascaded down her life, and now she's basically not homeless, but she lives at the temple because they are being gracious and letting her live there. And it's those 2 characters. You're going back and forth between the 2, and it just, you find out who did the killing, how the killing was done, all the different groups that were involved, because it then unearths bigger plots as it goes along.
Oh, it's so interesting because I was trying to remember who I talked to or where I had seen it, but somebody had told me that, yeah, like I was hooked after chapter 2. So that actually, the feedback makes more sense now. So, which makes me even more intrigued. So like I said before we got filming, like it was really hard for me to pick which one. So yeah, so I'm putting this, you and about 5 other authors. I'm like, gotta put one of the other books like in my bonus queue, or I always feel like I have to have some other books I know I'm gonna like, for my reading list, as palate cleansers. Because it's my only issue is I'm such a moody reader and writer that
Yeah.
I know I'll get this one, but I don't know if I'm gonna get to everybody's. So I feel like when I palate cleanse, I feel like it's a little bit easier. I do the same thing with writing. But that's so interesting. So I'm curious because as soon as I read the first part of the blurb, I'm curious at where you came up with, like the Inquisitor, like kind of like sect or class, if you will. Why did you give them this, ability to be invisible to the undead? How did that kind of come about? That's so cool.
To be honest, I don't remember where I came up with that idea. I
Super
wrote a short story about the same time that I came up with the blurb, that little blurb for what became Cthoma's Fated. And I wrote this short story about this character, invisible to the undead. I think I did it because the short story, there was a necromancer element to it, because it was going to be part of a bigger thing, with lots of different authors. Unfortunately, the publisher shuttered their doors before it got published. But yeah, then I had to take that idea and put it into the world that I'd already created to create the story as it unfolds in the way that it does.
That's cool.
Because I had to
Well,
play
I think
with the magic a little bit.
no, it's super cool. It just kind of reminded me of like the paladin from Diablo 2 and their ability to, really control, or not control the undead, but like really to, like to fight them, or to, like he's at one point you do get an ability, I think it's like level 20 or something like that, but it's like later on, deeper in the game where you could just like turn on the aura and you can literally just walk past hordes of undead. Once you attack them, they would then attack you, but you could, if you really needed to, like go by them and stuff. So that just, I love that game. It's my favorite game of all time. So that, when I read that, I was like, oh, like,
Yeah.
that immediately called back to that ability.
It also has a weakness for him though, because he can't control it. So like if you
That's even
locked him in a
cooler.
room with an undead, he would eventually die because he wouldn't be able to stop doing it. Because it's they're called veiled mages. He
Oh,
can't
cool.
control it. So he, if he went into a room with a bunch of undead, it would sap at him real quickly because he's affecting everything that's in the room.
That's really cool. I guess we can stop, Jeff. I think you sold both books really well. If you guys don't want to buy them now, I think you're in the wrong podcast or something. Well, that just sounds amazing. Why did you decide for True to go with a clockmaker's apprentice? I think that was such a cool concept. If it doesn't give anything away.
No, no, it doesn't give anything away.
Okay.
I like to have my characters have a life before the story
Oh,
starts.
for sure. Yeah.
And I was like, what would be an interest? Because I don't know anything about clockmaking, but I'm like, I'd like to learn a little bit about it. So,
Cool.
and research and everything like that. It just seemed interesting, like an interesting idea. And it's very, when you think about it, it's very mechanical. It's very precise. So it also says something about her character right away,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's not like she's just throwing things at the wall and hoping it works, but she has that kind of mind that she can think through the different parts you would have to work with and the different tools you'd have to work with to create a clock. And I
Yeah.
just thought that was an interesting idea.
I just think it's cool because it's much like Brandon Sanderson with like his main character Kaladin, where he's like a surgeon's son. He's trained as a surgeon by his father. And I think Brandon does such a good job of not just having it be a thing he used to do, but like being a part of his being and core. And there's a lot of cool themes. So I've just seen a lot of authors like yourself, I think, do a much better job of using that D&D background that we never really used to use, right? You pick something for, 5e, like 4e and 5e actually, and then you never really do anything with it, right? But I think if you have a really good DM, or somebody who plays really well, they're actually using that, to help in some way, to develop the story or at least to develop, their character's persona. So I don't know. To me, that one was really cool. I was like, oh, that's an interesting choice. So I thought that was really neat. And I cannot wait to see how that unfolds because I do agree. I think it takes a particular type of person, to do that, and yeah, to be able to organize themselves, and I think a lot of people who personally I know who do things like that want order, right? So interesting, I think, to put them in the chaos and see how it how it stews. So
Yeah.
I thought that was really really cool. And of course, where it says she's been haunted by whispers in her mind ever since a stranger tattooed her back with runes. Like, what a cool little like mystery right away for us to wonder about. So, I'm curious with the runes. Like, were there anything that you picked in particular, or did you just kind of like write about them? Did you kind of draw them out a little? Were there anything that inspired you? Like, why did you go with runes over maybe like some other type of magic script? I'm just curious.
It's just the idea of in the magic system, that's the only way you can root it physically.
Sweet.
So like if you use the magic, it's temporary unless you imbue a rune that holds the magic, and then you can use, so like you could put it into like a sword or something like that. And I like that idea of being able to imbue the magic into something physical, and that's the only way that it works. So it puts a
Cool.
limitation on it. So it's not like you go
Oh, I like that.
cast light and I'll walk away and the light will still be going. If you're not concentrating, if you're not using the energy that you have, the light will just go.
Oh, that's cool. That's super cool. I like the concept too with that for like using runes because it's almost like using spice. I think in Dune where it almost puts like its own economy on it, right? Like
Yeah.
not only limitations, but I think it does some interesting things for you, like world building wise, which I think is super cool. So yeah, I was just curious because whenever somebody uses runes, I feel like I've talked to a lot of people, but you said right, like that's a really good reasoning. But yeah, I've had some that just keeps popping up over and over again lately when I've talked to people. So I didn't know if there was like a rune convention that I missed. A rune writers convention is what my friend and I talked about recently. Yeah, so that's like super super cool. Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I think the blurb is really really cool. And then when you said on the same day, a young woman is killed, her animated corpse is found walking through. It's like I was like sold, sold. I was like, yep, 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 yep. So, but yeah, again, like I think really great blurb for both of them personally. But that was
Yeah,
awesome.
at the time that I wrote that that section where the corpse is walking, we were watching a lot of like procedural shows on TV, and I was like, wouldn't that be interesting? You go to a crime scene and the body's walking. And that's where that kind of idea came from.
That's awesome. It actually gives me some cool ideas because I had this like fire elementalist that I want to do. Like I was like, I figure if you have magic, right, and people that can use it, you probably have people that abuse it, right? Like it's
Oh yeah.
only fair. So I thought, well, police is fun. I was like, but what about a fire elementalist? And I actually bought this years ago, down in Arizona, this little like painting that someone had for like $2, and it gave me this idea, and I thought it'd be cool to do like a magical CIS thing with this fire elementalist. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm always thinking, so like when you say runes, I was like, I keep going back and forth between like runes or like a different type of script, but I like how you have reasoning behind it. So maybe that's what I need to do is find the reason behind it and then it'll fit. But I love that concept. Maybe I also need a body walking maybe on fire, stumbling like the ants in Lord of the Rings the movies. That's super awesome. But I like how you went with like this concept of mystery. Mystery was one of the things that I loved early on reading. Speaking of going back, like Boxcar Children, Hardy Boys, Nancy Drew, like it's no wonder I love like Dresden Files, or these other things, But I love where somebody particularly uses fantasy and uses those elements of mystery, within this genre, sci-fi as well. I'm just curious that maybe like what were some of the maybe like some of the I don't want to call it setbacks, but maybe what were some of the difficulties you found setting up this mystery in this fantasy setting or this world.
The funniest one, because it's based off a short story, so you get in, you get out real quick. I was about halfway through Shroud of Whispers and I went, "Oh, there aren't enough suspects. There's only one person that this could be of everybody you've met, unless you bring somebody out. It's like
Yeah,
you don't bring the actual criminal out at the last second. You introduce them early on." And so I had to stop and go back and go like, okay, who else could I add to this story, or who's already there that could be a suspect? And
that's a good one.
let's put some red herrings in there, and let's give some false ideas, which actually worked, because one of the people that I put in there is like, this is not the killer, but they could be. My editor was like, "Oh, I thought it was that person the whole time."
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Until she goes, "I thought it was them until it wasn't."
That's awesome. Those are the best kind of mysteries though, where I love because like early on in The Mentalist, I was wrong so much, like early on in the show. But then like once I realized like, oh, they're just using these now famous actors that were new on the scene at the time. I'm like, it's definitely gonna be them. And then I'm like on the last two seasons, it's them every time, right? But early on though, and there were some people that weren't so famous, and sometimes they did that. Like they would put you, this famous person in, and you're like, yeah, this person definitely did it. They have motive and stuff. You're like, it's this actor or actress, and then all of a sudden it would be Joe over here or something. So,
Yeah.
but I love being proven wrong because for me that's just so much fun, and particularly, looking at things that I missed, and like why I missed it, that kind of thing. I think it's so much fun, particularly in a mystery. So that intrigues me even more. So now you had me thinking again. Like, I wish I'd have so many. Well, I don't not wish I had so many books, but I wish I had more time on my hands.
Well, I got a stack of books that I need to read.
I have so many good ones I put off to this year because people asked me late, or I
Mhm.
found them late, or I was because I'm like a season of my show behind because when my son was born, I got nothing read for like a year and a half. So then the last 2 years, I've tried to go back and read people that have been on the podcast and read some other amazing books. Yeah, so I'm like really really tried this year to stay focused, but it hasn't helped so far. I've only read two. or three. But I guess it's only, the 25th of January. I'll finish another one later today, so I guess four is not too bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to both of yours in particular. Yeah, it was super hard for me to kind of go back and forth. But I just want to go back to Shroud of Whispers again because I'm curious at what are you most excited about when it comes to being accepted into SPFBO 11, not 10, 11.
Not 10, 11. Yeah. That's Spiff Boxy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I interviewed so many people last year from it where like now I'm like, oh, I was practicing earlier not saying 10. I keep typing 10 places. I'm just like,
Well, I was in Spiffbox too.Chthoma's
oh,
Fate
sweet.
was in there. I had the same judge as
Oh, that's right.
JL Odom. She won the whole thing. So I lost.
Oh, she was awesome.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
cool. So I'm cool with that.
I interviewed her at the end. It was super cool. I interviewed my friend Adrian again, right when he found out it was like her and him were going to like the tiebreaker. So that
Oh,
was like super, super
yeah,
cool. But
she's
I do remember that. Yeah, that's where I found you was from the Twitter list. And actually, this time I was so busy at work, I have to actually go back to all 300 people because that's my favorite day. I just go through and I start finding a lot of times it's like people that I know, but I still find like maybe like 200 people that I don't know, and I follow them and make some, cool
oh
friends and
yeah.
find some amazing books. But I do remember now, yeah, I found you from that list, so that's why I like the contest myself as a reader and a
Well,
podcaster. I'm like,
it
yeah,
was funny because like I entered the competition and it's random.
yeah, yeah.
And I oh they've picked the 300 and I'm like going through the list on my phone and I'm like, oh, there's my friend. Yeah, cool. I have to make sure to congratulate him. And I'm going through and I'm like, oh, maybe I didn't make it. I was 299 on the list. I'm like, wow, that was a
That's
little
crazy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
it was
crazy.
crazy. No, I'm the best thing about it is the people you get to meet and also just being able to get some reviews out on book.
Oh yeah.
It's like that's the best part. I mean, would I love to win it? Of course, anybody who enters wants to win, but I'm just I'm just happy to be nominated.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And it is like you said, right? Like I think it was like this year it was like something crazy. Like it was literally like yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like literally, like instantly, right? I think he said, like Mark, I think posted like 7.8 seconds or something. I think was like it.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh, I would have
but
done that too, but I slept in that day.
that's fair. Well, it's like so funny because like I talk to people about it, and yeah, I don't think people realize that now. They, oh yeah, I mean, or it is random, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know. I love cheering people on. I've had so many people that I've had on here like where I interviewed them, right before they entered and stuff, and then they got into the contest the last several years, and a couple won and stuff. So I was like, or got
That's
deep,
cool.
like finals and stuff or semifinalists. And some of my friends were like, "Man, you pick really good people to interview." I'm like, "I try." Like I pick what I think looks interesting, But some of them were like really early on were interesting, or that like contacted me beforehand. I was like, "Yeah, sure, sounds awesome, looks good." And then all of a sudden, the contest came out. So yeah, I love it. It's like I think it's a great way to show a great example. I tell people like if I ever become big like Mark, like or like Pierce Brown. I remember I met Pierce Brown at a signing right when Red Rising came out. He goes, "Oh, I might sell a few." I can't wait to see him again. Be like, you told me you might sell a few, and you were not lying. But I think it's good when these people are using their platforms to do something good and to help everybody rise up. So I think it's literally my favorite contest for that reason. And because like I said, I get to find really cool books like yours and talk to really cool authors. I'm just like making a list and checking it twice. I'm like, hey, can you interview that person next season? Or like my
Yeah.
season six probably be pretty full just from the 20. I always leave a slot of like 10 to 20 for people that don't contact me, but maybe that look really cool and stuff, or the book looks interesting. But well, good luck on the contest. I hope by now you found out, by the time this airs in May, I hope you find out, like round two is yours and ready to go. So we all wish you good luck there. Now I have to ask you, I love this question. A friend gave this to me a while back. I think it was like last spring. If you could have dinner with one of your characters, who would it be and what would you want to ask them?
Okay. This one is really easy, and it's not
Okay.
one of my main characters.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, Her name is Bidge Tenbloom. She shows up in Shroud of Whispers, because the characters needed to get something answered and they didn't have access to like somebody really powerful. So they found what I call a hedge mage,
Oh,
somebody
sweet.
who has power but no focus or no connections. She walked into the scene and I'm like, this is my favorite character
That's
ever. I
awesome.
want to drop everything I'm doing and write an encyclopedia about her.
That's awesome.
So basically, I would love to go to dinner with her and just let her talk because she would probably go to weird subjects and everything
Yeah, yeah.
else.
That's super cool. That's awesome. I'm a big hedge witch or head wizard fan, hedge wizard fan myself. I feel like so many people have had great, whether or not their main characters, like secondary characters, that do really, it's just a cool trope, I think. So that's awesome. And I'm sorry, which book is she in? Sorry,
She's in Shroud of Whispers.
Shroud of Whispers.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. You keep making me feel like I need to add another one on.
Both of them.
I have not made my list yet. It is not set. Maybe I will. I'll have to do a bonus video. That's what I'll do. Went on if I can't finish someone's right away. I always finish everything eventually, but yeah,
Yeah.
maybe if I'm stuck, I'll do that. Well, that is an amazing answer. I look forward to checking both books out, but especially her character because now you have me really intrigued. And I'm sure other people will be intrigued by that one as well. I know we're winding down on time. I want to make sure you have enough time to talk about that last question, which is always really important for us. Do you have any news, updates, current projects, anything like that you can share with us before we head out for the day?
Sure. Right now, book two in Shores of the Deluge will be done with my line edit from my editor. Be probably putting out arcs real soon from the point when this is released. And I get that on the last Friday of April, and the first or the last Monday of April, book three goes to my editor to start that. So I'm really excited about that. Working on a comedy fantasy thing right now that I hope in the next couple of years I'll have that out because that would be the only other option I would have to go back to SPFBO if
Oh yeah, yeah.
everything else is part of the series. So yeah, Shores of the Deluge. I've got four of the books written.
Oh,
Two
sweet.
of them are in note cards back there on my shelf.
Oh,
Uh,
awesome.
with like notes of like I got to remember to write this scene. I got to remember to write this scene. Yeah, and you can find me at my website jeffreyasmith.com. I'm mostly active on Instagram.
Oh,
Just
good to
because
know.
I can't concentrate on too many different things at one time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah, every once in a while I'll pop onto X. Facebook gets fed from Instagram, so I'm on there
Yep.
too. But yeah, that's what's going on right now, and I'm pretty excited about and book two will release at the end of the summer. I do a book festival called Better Off Read in Lewiston in New York.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool. You'll have to let me know the details for that. Maybe
Oh
I
yeah.
can yeah, if I'm in town around my summer schedule, maybe I'll swing by. That'd be
Oh,
awesome.
that'd be awesome. Yeah, we did it last year. Here, I'll show you. My daughter makes jewelry bookmarks.
Oh, that's
And she
cool.
sells those there. Oh, this is more Velving by CJ Switzer.
Oh, that's awesome.
If CJ watches this, I'm sorry. I'm really am reading it. I'm just taking forever because I'm working through my book. So I've read my book three times while I've been reading that one. Um,
Hard to do both.
yeah, I plan on releasing book two at Better Off Read. It was
Oh,
a great
awesome.
festival last year. There's like 100 vendors there.
Oh,
It's
wow.
outdoors. It's a beautiful park in Lewiston. It's called Art Park. It's really a lot of fun. Hopefully the weather is as good as it was last year because it was like 70 degrees and sunny. It was
Oh,
good.
wow. Oh, that's awesome. That's super cool. I remember somebody posted about that in like a group, and I was like, but it was literally like, I can't remember like we had just left like New York or just came back from seeing my family in Michigan. It was something wild. I was like, my wife's like, right now, I was like, by the time we get there, it's gonna be done. It was like the last day. I was so bummed. So yeah, I
It
totally
was a
forgot about
good
it.
time. A very
Yeah, that's
good
awesome.
time.
Well, who knows? Maybe if I get done in time, if they need a extra slot, maybe I can get a table or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely like to stop by at least, maybe like the next summer, set something up. But yeah, definitely, I remember that was one of two that were near, in the state, and I was like, oh, I didn't know about them till like last minute. So, but that sounds amazing. Well, I know everybody, want to wish you good luck, with SPFBO. Good luck writing, the other books and everything. I look forward to reading those as well. Maybe I'll just flip a coin or At this point. I know it's gonna be hard. As soon as I read the blurb for Shroud of Whispers, in particular, I was like, oh, I really want to read Almost Faded. But yeah, so it's gonna have to be one of those things, I think, last minute decision. But once I get that, I want to let everybody know that whichever book I decide to start with at first, for Jeffrey, will be in my 2026 reading list. I'm gonna do a part one, a part two, and part three. I will probably do like a part four, like books I hope I can get to, or might be some palate cleansers I definitely know I'm going to enjoy. I know if I do that, then Shroud of Whispers will definitely be in there. Or Cthoma Faded, whichever one I decide not to go with first. I know it for a fact. But Jeffrey, thank you so much for coming on. I just want to remind people to review your products anywhere you guys find them, whether it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all those different things. We just want to make sure we're really focusing on that, for all of our authors and creatives. It's really the thing that helps everybody, not just indie, but traditionally published, or people in those kind of industries as well. So if everybody could focus on that as our theme, really appreciate it. Jeffrey, if you need anything else in the meantime, just let me know. You can always post in my podcast group on Facebook. You can send me stuff. I'll post it on there. Whatever you need, feel free to tag me on Instagram, or send me stuff, and then I'll like repost it as stories or reels or whatever. But if there's anything else I can do, for you in the meantime, before this comes out, even after, yeah, I'd love to know. So please just, reach out, ask, and we'll help you as best we can.
Thank you.
No problem. Well, Jeffrey, you have a good rest of the day, and I will talk to you soon, my friend.
Yep. You too. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.